when astronauts look back on our planet from space and really take it in, something profound happens. They start to love their home. And then when they return back to Earth, many of them start to work for a better world. This is called the overview effect, a term coined by Frank White in his book, The Overview Effect. Now, if this journey to space can be so profound, we saw Wilbur Ockels, and even on his deathbed, he was still calling for work for a better planet. Or there was Edgar Mitchell, who started IONS, an organization connecting science with art and spirituality. But I can't take you all in space. We can't do that. So can we get this overview effect on Earth? We can't. Yes, we can. Sorry, I go the wrong way. We can, and actually I feel part of a family of hundreds of thousands or millions of people on Earth working for a better planet. I don't feel alone. It's the people that Paul Hawkins called the blessed unrest. It's the people that Charles Eisenstein calls those who work for the better world our heart knows is possible. Many of you might be in it. Conscious artists, minimalists, social entrepreneurs. So this is a shitload of people. And yet, it should be way, way more people. I'm one of the people who work in alternative education. And I think in education, something is going wrong. And I want to share that with you, or start there, and then we go, how can you all join the Digital Revolution if you're not yet in? With 3 shocks. And the first shock happened when I was 5. I made a drawing for my teacher with stick figures and some clouds and a sun and a little house and probably a tree, you know, the whole cliche thing, and I bring it as a gift to my teacher because I want her to like me. And I reach up to my teacher, and the teacher takes the drawing. Well, Floris, clouds you draw with a blue pencil. And I look outside, there's a clear blue sky, but with very, very white, bright clouds in it. And I go, what? I thought you were here to teach me how things were, but you're telling a lie. And I thought, when it's between you and me, then what I personally observe, rather than what you tell me, will win. And here I think already the rebel stood up. And at the same time, the strangeness, I realized later, that somehow already she was impregnated with, there's a right answer and you have to work to it. The second shock happened when I was 10. I was called in front of the classroom and I was very shy at that time. I would go fully red already, so I froze up. And then the teacher asked me something like, Floris, do you know where Groningen is? And I start to think, does he mean the city or the province? And does he want to point it out or tell him? I really wanted to help, but I was sweating and feeling awful. And my classmates look at me and they are looking annoyed or bored. And I look at the teacher and he rolls his eyes like in desperation. What a failure, you know, what can I do? And I felt awful. And at that moment, I think to myself, this is weird. Outside on the playground, I'm a normal kid like everyone else, and here I'm this failure. Why? I must remember this for later. Now, and later I realized, of course, this was pressure and dealing with authority. That was one thing. The other thing is, actually, I only realized a few weeks ago when I talked about this, to realize this thought, I must remember this for later, means already my subconscious says, hey, I'm part of a bigger system, you know, and I want to help here, not only for myself, but also I want to do something with this. The third shock happened more to my parents. I did at 12 the CETO test, the test you do before you go to, the secondary school. And I failed utterly. They told my parents, he'll probably not even do the lowest of the next level. And my parents, that was a different time, still some parents might believe it, they went, okay, they believe the results. And the teachers believed the results, so there I was. And the weird thing is, I could feel the panic, but nobody spoke to me about it. And this was also weird, because already at that time, I was reading in the adult library, because I had finished the whole library in our school, I was reading a lot of historic popular science, and I read a lot of science fiction. And science fiction, especially good science fiction, gives this broader perspective of what's possible, or what are big issues in our world. So, when in 2004 I entered and started working in alternative education, I started really looking back, because suddenly I realized the time of this I must remember for later is now. And I started to realize what happened there. One thing I noticed is that education is organized around the measurability of learning progress, not to boost learning. During my whole education, I've done hundreds of exercises, and that in itself is also a training. Hundreds of exercises that made no sense to me. I've had to switch off my passion, playfulness. I only had to concentrate on dreary tasks that made no sense. I call this a training in disconnection. If you want to have bankers that sell dubious mortgages to the world, that's excellent training. But if you want to have the overview effect in the youth, it's totally the wrong thing. And once in a talk, I said to a room, measurability is a war crime. And I thought that was a bit over the top. But afterwards, a woman comes to me and says, Floris, do you know how right you are? Do you know how many children in the world, or young students, commit suicide, especially in India and China? How many children are swallowing pills? How many young people feel inadequate, feel losers, drop out? How many have we ever measured, if you want to measure something in education, how many children are doing the test just to give the right answer and are disconnected from what it means for themselves? This can be done totally different, because the consequence is tragic. I know a lot of young people who say, I don't know what to do with my life, or I want to help, but I don't know how. Or they get burnouts, drop out, or feel lack of meaning. And that's a waste of talent and power. Luckily, it can be very different. Socrates said something like, education is not the filling of a vessel, it's the kindling of a flame. And so many young people have flames, because this attack is on the paradigm, not on all those great teachers I know also out there, really wanting to see the light and the fire in children and in young people. And sometimes I hear stories of teachers who are totally frustrated because they have these students who have this incredible street wisdom, or are working on social activism, or are making the classroom more beautiful, but they can't value it because that's not what valued in education. Beautiful children lose their spirit because of some spelling mistakes. How crazy can it be? And here I have to talk about Sir Ken Robinson, who said, we need more creativity in school. Yes, and we need more compassion and love and willingness to stand up to the system. Let's teach rebellion. Yes, that would really be helpful. And how to do that? Here we can look at one thing I said. So if we would children ask, what are you willing to work on in this world? What would you like to change, or what problem would you like to help solve? And we, instead of teaching them how to do it, we let them explore and discover their own answers, and we facilitated that process. I think that would be a way more beautiful form of education. And how to stimulate that research, here once again we go to the root of learning, play. Because play is how nature invented learning. It's so integral, you can't measure what you're learning all at the same time. But if I make this move, 20 things happen at the same time, even perhaps in your bodies, while you're wondering, what is this? And at the same time you understand, and you get happy. Yes, so when we are here happy, let's do an exercise with all of you. So, from the outside in, I want you to make pairs. And if you hear it then are uneven, you look at somebody behind you, front you, or across the aisle. Yes, make pairs. There we have light. Yeah, don't talk. You're wasting my minutes. Yes, everybody ready? Here's the exercise. The traditional world. Look in each other's eyes as serious as possible. As serious as possible. This is work. Look at each other's eyes. Serious as possible. Shh. Serious as possible. Looking into each other's eyes. Yes. And relax. And here, this is the right word, relax. You're masking up. Being as serious as possible is masking up. We call this professionality, but actually it's, once again, a training in disconnection. So let's do it again. And this time I ask you to look in the other person's eyes as open and honest as you can. And whatever happens, happens. There's a human in front of you. Okay, who felt more touched? Yes, there we go. This is the big switch, ladies and gentlemen. The overview effect, like with the astronaut, when they look at the Earth from space and they take it in, they start to get touched. And when you look at another person as a real human being, you get touched. And this is the basis, what I call the overview effect. Get touched, be more vulnerable. And when you from that feeling, act, and put it into the world, also something beautiful can happen, because all our different voices together can make a bigger, greater world song. And this I want to try with you. So are you ready? Okay. We will. Yes. And that's not what we're going to do. Because this is singing the song that, this is singing the song that I am the leader once again, and we follow the leader. But the change has to come bottom up. Like I said, all those people working to make the change happen, the gentle revolution, as it were, must become visible by adding your voice. So, who here sings in a choir? Hands. Yes, could they stand up? The people who stand there in the choir. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, to add to the world voice is also the courage of adding your voice to the whole. So I'm first going to explain what we're going to do. You're going to sing a tone, and then everybody else, like I said, creativity is adding to what you feel is missing. What yet is the world needing? So if you hear the tone they make, how can you make it more beautiful? If you think the tone is already beautiful, you add to that tone. If you think a rhythm is missing, add a rhythm. But it's not about being original. It's about adding what you feel will make the whole more beautiful and alive. It's an experiment. It can fail, so I hope. So who wants to start making a tone? Let's take somebody in the back, because then the voice reaches forward. Yes, there, that lady. Don't, that's being your ego. That's your own image. Keep it going and add. And you can stand up if you feel, yes, I'm adding. Yes, don't be afraid to stand up and add. Yes, and if your heart steers you somewhere, follow your heart. You're applauding to each other, just that you know this. So let's stop treating children as if they're sales agents. Get your A grade next month up. Let's create a more beautiful world by adding your voice. We can only win when everybody wins. We can only flourish when everybody flourishes. And by living from your inner compass, what's missing, and adding your own voice with courage, while being touched, a huge revolution can take place. Thank you.